I mean, what a night. This is wonderful. Thank you all for being here. I'm Carly Starr, and I was an assistant prop master on Thinner. And Chris Cleese is out there somewhere. He was assistant props as well. And I think without any further ado, we should bring out the legend Tom Holland, the director of Thinner. Right there, sir. Right there. I think this panel would not be complete without Billy Halleck, Robert John Burke. And of course, there's Richie the Hammer, or Agent Stoner as well. I think we should bring out Joe Mantegna. Oh. And you've never met a passionate girl like Gina Limke before. Her name is Kari. Bring that beautiful girl out here. Oh, and how about that makeup? Have you ever seen such gorgeous makeup in a film before? And part of that team is Vincent. Get out here, Vincent Guastini. Well, this is awesome. I hope we're rolling the cameras.
And the property mistress for the movie.
Wow. You know, Tom.
Carly Starr, everybody! What's up?
Right? I think it's wonderful because let's think about this. Did it start with you, Tom? Was it a meeting? Was it a word? Was it a typewriter? Did you read the book? How did you think of Thinner?
Well, I did. Stephen King did.
You got a microphone there,
Stephen
sir?
King thought of it.
Oh.
Yeah, but he couldn't get it done for 13 years. And that was the last Richard Bachman book. And the reason he couldn't get it done was all the studios hated the original ending. Okay, the original ending was Billy Halleck accidentally. He kills his wife, thank God, but his daughter eats it. And his daughter is the only one he loves. And I don't think I established it. I was trying to listen to with the scene at the lighthouse with the Gypsy King, but he either suicides by eating the pie, or if I had established that he could take it back himself, he ate the pie and saved the daughter. But I didn't get exposition in the lighthouse scene that was clear on the fact that he was taking it back to save his daughter. And the studios were right in the sense that we previewed this film all over New Jersey, New York. I can't remember everywhere. And it's the only time I've ever had a film that was so strong that the audience in the last 2 or 3 minutes went away from me because they hated the ending. They didn't want Billy Halleck to lose. There had to be some glimmer of hope. And as you look at it, nobody's irredeemable. No character in the movie except the daughter who's innocent. But you can argue that Billy learned his lesson. So at the end, he did redeem himself. And with the footage that I had, the only way I could think out of it was to give Billy, to go out on at least Billy having one more victory, which was to say, killing his wife's lover, the doctor. And I went out on that, and that substantially improved the reaction in the audience. But yeah, I looked at the film just now, and my mouth falls open. The film's now 27, 28 years old, but it is one strong acting scene after another. And to their credit. And the effects really are amazing. And I should say something else for you film fanatics out there. This was the last film that Dick Smith, who was the father of effects as we know it today, conceived of and did. And I met with him, and like everybody else, in keeping with the film, he was dying of cancer. Dick Smith did the makeup on The Exorcist, which literally changed what we thought of as makeup, in-camera practical effects, what they could do. And he conceived of the fat suit and Billy Halleck going down to 140 pounds. And he sketched it out. And somehow that ended up in Vince Guastini's very capable lap hands.
Well, let's be careful of that, because that was Greg Canham, who was the supervisor and the designer of all the effects. And I was early in my career, and I met with Bob Layden, who was up to do the application and the effects, and he said, I want you to send your portfolio into Greg Canham. And at that point, it was early in my career, I was doing a lot of low-budget movies and Last of the Mohicans, so I was climbing up the ladder, and I didn't work for anybody else, really, and it was my first time working for somebody else. I already had a studio, I already was doing things, and once I sent my work into Greg Canham, he hired me immediately, and me and Bob Layden went up there, and then me and Bob Layden were the effects supervisors on set that executed all the effects that were being built in Los Angeles. So I just want to be clear with that this is Greg Canham's work.
Well, you did an excellent job on set and everything that you did, Vincent. And about...
I did get the opportunity to, because Greg wasn't available, to design and build and make the effects for the ending, which was the corpse that you saw in the bed, and then one that was cut out, which was the daughter that was supposed to be emaciated, but that was not, that was cut out of the film.
So, Bobby, when you got the call to be Billy Halleck, have you read the book? Did you know? Like, what happened? What was that audition like? And where did you find all those different Billys inside yourself in that character? Because, boy, wasn't that amazing? Your range in that, you went through anger and love and jealousy, and you really did do the gamut there. So what part of Billy is you, or how did you find all those characters in yourself?
Like Vincent, that was early in my career, so I was acting as fast as I could. It's kind of fuzzy, because I remember the initial audition. I remember thinking, I'll never get this, and I went in and I just, I had nothing to lose. I ultimately got the role, and then I read the book, and I had read other Stephen King, and I was aware of, in certain respect, what he was about and that genre. And then it was, I always described it as professional muscles. Could I show up early? Could I be amenable and kind and fun to work with? Could I not get sick? Could I just do the best job I could do on a daily basis? Because it was really scored like a piece of music that progressively got more, horrifying. But there were a lot of different styles of suggestions being made by a lot of different camps and stuff like this. The studio, this genius of a beautiful human being next to me got me through his direction, and I trusted Tom implicitly, because every once in a while in this business you don't meet people who have the material at heart. It's like, oh, who cares how it turns out? This man cared deeply, and so when you're with someone like that, it makes the navigating the whole process and the process itself more enjoyable, more meaningful, because it was a difficult shoot.
Yes, it was. Yeah, we're talking about gaining weight, losing weight, eating all day, and yet we had to shoot it in a certain order in order to make that work, didn't we, Vincent? And Joe, how about you? When you got that script in your hand, or however it worked for you, what particularly got to you? Why did you want to be Richie?
Well, I did a book on tape of it, actually. I've done books on tape, over my career.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. So at least I had read the book, and so I thought, yeah, I don't know if to play Swedish sea captains, but characters like Richie seem to be right up my alley. And the thing about, and what's funny, you mentioned Dick Smith. Dick Smith, speaking of another role that's somewhat in that genre, Dick Smith is the artist who created the ear I wore in Godfather 3 that Andy Garcia bites off in the film, and the blood comes flying out of my head, and I thought, so I had, that was my second experience with Dick. But we were just talking earlier about, there was an interview earlier about, somebody asked me, said something about playing a role like that of villains and versus, and one thing I will say is this, and I tried to do it with this character, and I think we can all relate to that. For me, the trick is when you play a character that's inherently maybe the bad guy, what you try to look for is the good aspects of them. So in other words, to me, Richie was a heroic figure. He was, I thought of him as being heroic. What he did for a living has nothing to do with his moral base. And so he's out to help this guy. And the same thing, like you got a good, that's what I think the brilliance of Stephen King. So you got a character that starts out very, compassionate, very, somebody you care about with Bob's character, and then turns into ultimately what he turned. So he had to tap into that other side. So that's all.
Because you ended up becoming friends, especially in the bathroom scene. It wasn't just a debt anymore. It seemed like you were in it to win it. Yeah.
That's what my people do.
Our people. How about you, Kari? Like, the research that you did was pretty impressive. I mean, you have a story about how you prepared for Gina, don't you?
Well, yeah, I guess. I got cast in New York City, and we found some, and I gotta say, back in the 90s, there was no PC this, PC that. We stereotyped, we did whatever, but gypsy is not an okay word, nor is the whole Romani culture being stereotyped as gypsies now. But back then, there was people that lived in New York City that were of this Rom, delineation, these people. Considered gypsies in some cultures, and they would tarot card in storefronts and whatnot. And I know I went down, and I think Robert did too, and we met with these people in the storefronts, and before I knew it, in the back of the storefront where they lived, playing with their kids, I was out $500 in like a day. There is a culture to, a culture to this way of surviving. And there is a language. It was called Rom at the time. I think it's more now Romani. And I learned some of that and hung out with them and their kids and learn that, this is an actual thing. And even though, we made it look fantastical with the caravans and the fairs. And I grew up in Connecticut, actually, where this was supposed to take place. And I don't really remember this exactly, but there is some sort of carnival event that happens in the summer times. And so, you know what, I hung out with them, and I learned a couple of words, and I learned, some stuff, and, maybe the studio didn't understand it. I think at one point they wanted me to, dub my voice because it was, they weren't, but it was all pretty authentic. I mean, maybe I'm not the best, representation of a Romani gypsy of the time, but I really sat with them and I learned it and I had fun doing it, and it wasn't, it was funny and it was horrific, and it was and I had read the book in 1984 when I was still in high school, and it was my favorite Stephen King book. So when I met Tom at the audition, I was like, I had no idea. But there was some synergistic connection because it was supposed to happen because I loved it. But, you know, we do the best we can with what we're given, and it was a different time back in the 90s, and I think we kicked some ass.
And Vincent, how was Bobby in that makeup chair? How many hours a day? What was going on with those suits and all that jazz? Huh?
I never had more fun with an actor in my life. I mean, I'm serious. To put up with all that and the jokes and the fun that we've had, even in the rough periods of some of the makeup stages that we had to go through, was a pleasure beyond any experience I've had with an actor since.
Right, oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, and how many hours, what was it, 5 hours? What time did you get up? And
I would get up at 1:30 in the morning. I would get on a treadmill from 1:35 until... I contractually obligated myself to lose 20 to 25 pounds while we were shooting, and I didn't have that to lose at that time. And so then at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'd get in the makeup chair, and we'd have to break every once in a while and get out of the makeup chair at about 7 a.m. and shoot 12, 14, 16 hours, and then wash, rinse, repeat. There's a thing called forced calls where you're required to come back to the set without having 12 hours elapsed. And it's for health reasons, for safety reasons, but I kept getting my call to show up forced because of time constraints. So the element of the application of the makeup was a huge character in this movie, or in the process of making it, that I was always cognizant of. We were always trying to expedite it, always trying to make it work faster. And even in scenes where, it's very benign, you don't really see my face too much, it was always somehow 4 or 5 hours of makeup. And, like Vinny said, we had a lot of fun in the makeup room. I mean, it was psychological torture. But, yeah, but then again, I could hear my father, God rest his soul, saying, "Get a fucking real job, will you?" I pinched myself that I could get to do this, and I started doing these makeup jobs, RoboCop and this one, and then another 5-hour makeup job. And I said to my wife, shoot me if I ever take another job like this."
So she picked up a camera.
Lon Chaney.
Yeah, but in preparation for, let me just say this, for all that work that Bob did, he's talking about them saying, go and get a real job. I have such admiration for this man, because the one thing which is, you may or may not know, but for quite a few years now, this man is a captain with the fire department in New York State.
There we go.
So besides being a brilliant actor, this guy has a job that, to me, he's a real hero.
I come to a fire call sometimes, and they're like, "That's Billy Halleck,"
And then he breaks the pole.
The two worlds collide sometimes.
And Joe, on the same subject, don't you do a lot of work with veterans? I mean, you're in Oceanside, California.
Unbelievable.
Look, we all have a hot button, whatever it may be. You know what I mean? Whatever people have a passion about things, this, that, and the other. I mean, I have a lot of military in my family, and so, again, for me, people in uniforms, whatever those uniforms may be, whether it's first responders, whether it's people in the medical profession, people in the military, people who, when they go to work every morning, they're not necessarily guaranteed that they're going to come home at night, or that they're doing a job that is somehow beneficial to others. I mean, we make believe, and hopefully we make people laugh, make them cry, we entertain them. I feel very blessed, and I'm sure speaking for all of us, we feel very blessed to have had the professions we have. But I figure the least we could do is pay back to those who, I've played a lot of incredible, noble characters in my career, cops and this and that, and currently FBI and whatever it may be. But my respect goes to the people who really do that job every day, and so it's a privilege and an honor to portray characters like that.
I mean, you did have an amazing cast. Even your son was in the movie, Tom. So right? Josh Holland. And what do you feel about the tone? How do you think it turned out? Do you think it was true to the book? What were you after? You know, did you sit at the dailies and go, yes, we've done it? Like at the end of this film, what do you love about Thinner?
I thought when I first got involved in it that it was a character study in horror, and it also played into body horror, which wasn't a genre then, but it is now. And it had so many elements, but it was an acting script. It was a script for actors. It would not work without having terrific players. And I got very, very lucky. And I just really cast well, and the tip of the hat to Leonard Finger, who was the casting director.
Yeah, Leonard.
Yeah. but there's something else. This film, from the first time I previewed it, always had an emotional effect on the audience. Nobody went to the bathroom. You know, the audience was absolutely rooted to the spot. And they all hated the ending.
And Kari, I'm sorry, sir, go ahead.
No, but I mean it and I look at it now, and I haven't seen it for a long time. And it's a testament to actors playing character. It isn't plot. I do have a question. Whatever happened to Richie the Hammer?
I'd like to think that Richie retired to Florida, did okay, whatever. But yeah, I think
Right
there was
on
a
the
version
hand.
though. There was a version, wasn't there, where they
I
found my car and then they found my hand.
Yeah,
or something.
I have a picture of myself holding your hand with your pinky
Yeah,
ring.
like
and
I don't
we
know.
shot it in a glove box.
The shot is missing. I know that I shot the severed
did.
hand.
You did.
Richie's hand severed, and I featured the ring so you would know it was Richie the Hammer's.
Yes,
And that's how
Bobby-
you know Richie had died.
Yeah.
But somehow it got cut out.
Cut out.
And
No
I'm looking
pun
at the
intended, no
film,
pun
and
intended.
everybody's
Didn't we
taken
see
care
it
of.
with it in at one point? I remember seeing
No,
it in.
Bobby, we were in the car. Bobby was there. He'd open the glove box, and Richie's hand would fall out. It's Richie's hand would fall out. We
There
don't
might
know
have been
where
an
it is.
Italian
that scene's
producer
not
who
in
got
there.
final cut. Is all I could think of.
I
you
have
have
no
the hand,
idea. I don't have
Vinny?
the memory.
No, I do not.
But I mean, Richie got away with it, I guess.
And Kari, Michael Constantine, huh? You hung out with him Michael Constantine, right? He did an amazing job.
He was a huge TV star.
He did.
In the
I spent
60s, room 244 or something?
Right. I spent a lot of time with him.
222.
And I remember, when my parents were still alive, they came up to Maine. My mother did, my grandparents. All they wanted was to meet Michael Constantine. And he was working. Michael Constantine called my dad on the phone and spoke to my dad on the phone. Come on.
Come on, yeah.
I mean, my dad's an asshole, but Michael Constantine was not. Amazing.
Yeah,
He was an incredible actor, a very versatile, utilitarian, creative soul that could do anything. And he really lent everything to the gypsy feeling of this movie for me. He really did. He really led the way, and he made a safe place for us to be able to do this, because
It's Sterling. Do we have that queued up? Okay. Someone couldn't make it here, and they were so upset about it. And you know what? Sometimes you just got to play a video, Tom. If you want to turn around, I hope it's going to work.
Hey, hi. It's Lucinda Jenny, Heidi Halleck. And I'm really sorry that I'm not in San Diego right now saying hi to everybody. And I'm hoping, that you're having a great time. I miss you all. I'm here. I'm in Luxor. I'm on the Nile. So I'm in Egypt, if you can believe it. And it's pretty wonderful here. Looking around for some strawberry pie. Yeah, I hear people calling out strawberry pie. I'm not finding any, but there's some pretty fabulous baklava. So anyway, next stop is Cairo and then over to Jordan and Amman. So I won't be back for a while, but I miss you all, and I hope you're having a great time. And bye-bye from Lucinda in Egypt. Bye.
Lucinda Jenny, people. Lucinda Jenny.
Bye, honey. Be safe.
Does that bring up any emotions, Robert, at all, seeing her?
She was wonderful.
Yeah.
You know, a pro, you know. When you're in this makeup and everything, and you're on set, you find this a lot. People going, just watching you to see if you're okay. And she was always kind of like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I'm fine." "Are you really?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's great." So because sometimes inside I'd be like, "I got to get out of here." Oh my God! But she was just so wonderful to work with.
Do you think that Billy's just projecting all of his energy on Heidi and Dr. Mikey? What do you think that is? Is that a true blue plot line there, sir? People have asked.
About Dr. Mikey?
And did they, you know? What did you do, Joe?
Well,
Yeah.
in the book, he doesn't get it in the end, Dr. Mikey.
He doesn't hit that in the book.
He gets away with it. Yeah.
Okay, do we have a mic, Angela? We're all ready. I think we should get a couple questions from you amazing people, right? Let's see here.
I'll give you another very little known fact. The first draft was done by Michael McDowell. Michael McDowell is no longer with us and hasn't been for a long time, AIDS. But Michael McDowell was a brilliant screenwriter. He wrote the original Beetlejuice. Yeah. And he also wrote the amazing stories that I shot. And he also wrote the first Tales of the Crypt that I did, which was the third one ever done. And Michael McDowell was a great writer. And thank you, Michael.
Well, I mean, look what Tom just mentioned. It's amazing, sir, your career, truly. Thank you for all that you've given to the world of art. I mean,
Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful.
Thank you.
Truly. Okay,
Thank you.
does anyone have a question for any of these talented people up here? Right there. You got it, Carolyn? Mic on.
We can't find the fucking hand.
Anyone else have a question? Oh, right there.
You said you had to film it in a certain order because of, I'm assuming, the makeup, right? And then you said you had to lose 25 pounds at some point. So what my question is, so did you start the film with the lost weight and then go up, or you were fat and went down?
May I answer your beautifully dulcet tonal question? We started with the heavy makeup, which was the most complex and took the longest. I tell the little story. The first day of shooting was the courtroom scene where I'm getting Joe off, and it was 95 degrees in Camden, and they applied the latex, ours, and latex constricts when it's applied, and your body swells. And I got up there and I was like, "Your Honor, I can't see it." I mean, it was just, everything was closing in. I asked for oxygen. I'm like, come on, you can do this. This is day one. And I just started, it was, the latex was pressing on my carotid artery. And I was just like, I couldn't explain it. I was like, what?
Why don't we have Vincent explain it? Vincent?
Vincent?
The edges start to lift.
I mean, a good deal of that was my fault, but that was also Bob Layden, who's no longer with us, was responsible for heading up the fat makeup, which was beautifully done. And even in hindsight, I look at it, and I mean, now you see The Whale, which was done with silicone and won the Oscar for best makeup. But then you look at this, it being foam and being over 30 years ago, and I think it's beautiful and exceptional. And so rest in peace to Bob Layden, who became a very close friend. And
Didn't he do Linda Blair's makeup?
he did Father Marin
Oh, I
for
see.
Dick Smith. He took over the application for that, and also did some test makeups for Godfather 3 for Dick Smith as well.
He was unbelievable.
He really was.
Because
so rest
what
in
about the
peace.
lizard? Who did, I mean,
That
was
I
in Daniel's
applied.
makeup.
I applied that makeup, and there were these intricate pieces that one of the animatronics guys put with fishing line that the scales were supposed to come off, and you see it in the dream sequence. Even though it was a little inconsistent in the editing because of what was going on, you really didn't get a clear reason or shot of it. But I mean, that's what, how these things were going on, because we were testing things on film a lot of times.
And Danny's makeup was amazing. The the pimple pus. I mean,
Yeah,
the lips, the way he pulled it off.
I
that was incredible.
applied that, and I was mostly responsible though too, not only for the onset effects, but the gypsy makeup on Michael Constantine.
The liver spots.
Yeah.
So
and
good.
he had a
People don't
whole
look at that.
wraparound. It was a whole prosthetic. It was a whole makeup and a whole stage of all these dots. And and Greg, I guess it was my early OCD. I was so paranoid about every little dot. And some days I was like, did I go too much? Does it look a little too dotty today? And so I was losing my mind, but thanks to Greg and giving me the opportunity, I became a really strong makeup artist. So by the time I got to do Requiem for a Dream, it gave me the basis of anything I had to do wrong on that. So, thanks to Greg Canham, it was a big learning experience for me for later on for my career.
Yeah,
And there's
the-
no
the pie.
camera tricks in any of that.
No.
What you see is what you get, and the closer you get, the better it looks. I haven't seen it on a big screen in years, but
Neither
it
did I, yeah.
blew me away. No age reversal bullshit or like whatever they use today. This is pure creative genius, and it's flawless. Am I right?
And the pie took forever, Vincent. Remember, the pie was a very long process, wasn't it, Tom? The pie?
What about the pie?
The pie was a long process, sir. Yeah, it was over and over again because the pie was a very intense pie,
Well,
wasn't it?
trying
It
to
was
get
a
it
pulsating pie.
Trying to get the pneumatics. Yeah, the pneumatics working. Yeah.
Yes. Anyone else have a question?
Thanks. So this was a movie I enjoyed when I saw it back in 1996, but it wasn't the commercial success that some people had hoped it would be. And so I was wondering if you had any insight why this movie didn't resonate better in the 90s and why it's taken on kind of a cult status now and become more popular as it's aged.
He would like to know what went wrong in the 90s and now you're cool. Right?
I
What
think-
happened in the 90s?
I think one of the things that's happened is you don't have to have a happy ending in 2023. And back in 1996, they were very upset if, and this one tricked expectations because it's not a hero. It's to really be brutal about it. The theme is moral jellyfish gets squished in the end. But do you want to pay $9.95 to see that? That was the question. And yet the film nobody left. Everybody stayed the entire way through from the first screening all the way through.
Because did you all have a premiere? I don't remember. Because there was the reshoots, right? And then, was there a big premiere?
I went and I picked up on the Paramount lot. I picked him up at the doorway in the house. I got a shot on. I was able to take the existing footage. What I originally had was I thought it was a beautiful shot. But he accidentally poisons his daughter. He knows it, and he comes out and in despair from the kitchen. He holds the strawberry pie, and he starts to eat it. And I did a very, very, very slow pull out from him, and it turned him into a tragic figure, and the audience just hated it. Yeah. So I had him come back out, and I picked him up, inviting the doctor in. You know, did I bring the doctor out too for the pickups?
Yep.
I had you and the doctor for the pickups at the door, and I was able to turn it and at least make it, at least give Billy a small victory at the end that he kills the doctor who was cheating on him with his wife. Now I don't know if that's a happy ending or not, but you know.
Wait, I just gotta say something. We did a lot of test screenings for this. And when the audience tells a filmmaker what to do, we are filmmakers. We decide what you're gonna look at, and then you can decide how you feel about it, but you can't tell us how to do our job, just like we can't tell you how to feel about it, right? And so maybe a test audience, you know, isn't the best idea. Make a movie, watch it, feel how you feel. You're given a gift, you give us money, whatever it is. But the thing is, it's an art exchange. It's not really a two-way street until later. And I think that the 90s was really incredible as a way of making movies. We got to do whatever we wanted. And you guys got to see it in the movies or straight to video or whatever it is. It became this, like, I don't know, it was like it was an experiment as to how to make movies. The 80s had their own, you know, voice. The 70s, they had their own voice in filmmaking. The 90s was something different. There was a lot of straight to video. We were trying to figure out new ways of seeing movies. And the audience got to pick and choose what they wanted to see. It doesn't mean that the filmmakers had to make a movie specifically for what you guys want or what we all wanted to see. You know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say? So art is art, and then response is response. They don't necessarily have to interact and create, you know, the perfect, you know, monolithic experience. It just is what it is. Does that make any sense at all? And so that's what we were able to do. You know, I listen, I'm a peripheral character, but I made a lot of movies in the 90s. And all I know is that I worked with directors like Tom and actors like these guys that put their heart into it, and we put everything on the table, and we went, like, we finger painted. And then we were like, ta-da! You know, and it was just us. Now it's like AI, CGI. There's so much more going on. But this was just people making movies.
Yeah.
You know, and we made a great movie for just people making movies. Makeup, acting, you know, boobs and butt. You know, we all did what we did. And we made a good movie, right? It's not like that anymore. It's so different now. Remember Leonardo in Titanic? You don't see that guy anymore, right? You see different versions of him made through different media in different ways that films are made. But back then it was pretty raw, and it was pretty great.
I mean, what you're saying is Tom Holland blew up a bus at 4 o'clock in the morning in
That's
a little
what I'm
town in
saying.
Maine. It was kind of fun. The neighbors didn't like it, did they, Tom? Does anyone have any other questions? Oh.
Thank you. Good evening. Welcome to Oceanside, California. My question is, what projects are you currently involved in, or what projects do each of you have in the future in stored besides Fat Tony?
Yeah. Well, I just got the approval from Sony to do a podcast reading with the original cast of Fright Night.
Yeah.
And I want to do that because I want to get everybody while they're still here, you know, and that's also become multi-generational and a dearly, dearly beloved film, and it has a happy ending. And so that's one of the things I'm doing next, and other things I can't talk about because the deals haven't closed. So.
Anyone else have a question? Oh.
I was just going to say that 4 days ago I started our 17th season of Criminal Minds. So,
Congratulations.
and I've also started my 33rd year playing Fat Tony on The Simpsons. So between those two jobs, I don't need to do anything else.
I gotta say, I raised 3 children. I have a son at Berkeley, and my daughter's going to NYU in September. And so that's what I've been doing, yo.
And because I try and live in the moment, I'm working on this panel answering questions right now. No, things were going very well during COVID for me. I don't know, it's like dressed in the biodome suit and it's doing, films and stuff. And I was very lucky. And then, with the strike and everything, so now we're just looking at stuff and reconstituting momentum and, that kind of shtick.
Vincent?
I've have a slew of makeup effects projects that are coming out that have gotten a lot of great reviews. And also a film that just came out last month in the theaters was called The Cello, starring Jeremy Irons, that I did all the effects for, which was shot in Saudi Arabia, and it was directed by Darren Lynn Bousman. And so we did a lot of extensive effects, and I'm also been producing and directing and developing projects as well. So in my later years, I want to do more filmmaking, but it always involve effects because I love movies, and it's thanks to people like Tom Holland that inspired me, and the people that have given me opportunities that has made me want to be more of a filmmaker than anything else.
When we are watching this film, we're very much aware that the violence is not real, and some of it is comic. And it's not as visceral as The Godfather. So here we are in 2023. This question is to the panel. Do you think that violence has gone too far in sci-fi and in horror? Is there any kind of a moral responsibility to directors that there is a barometer that there ever could be too much violence shown on film?
Seen the latest John Wick movie?
I'd like to answer that. I feel that violence, if it's just there to be perverted, which is like porn, violence that has no impact on the story, and it's just there to shock. But if it's fun violence, remember Paul Verhoeven when he was doing things like Starship Troopers, and when you go for a ride, it's a fantasy. It's a living comic book. So if you can feel the director's intentions, and if you are open-minded enough, I think you know what the director is trying to get across. You know the directors that are being mean just to be mean, and you know the ones that are just being fun. And whatever's going to insult you or give you a ride, it's your choice whether to accept it or not watch it or have fun with it.
And I'd also say film and television, it's a reflection of life, and it's a reflection of the world. The world is too violent. We all know that. Every day we see that. And yet I do agree there's a responsibility in the sense that, yes, I do think people, especially young people, can be affected by, something they see and maybe try to emulate it, this, that, and the other. But on the other hand, and I'll use Criminal Minds for an example. People will sometimes say to me, "Oh God, it's hard to watch that show because you really have to show it like that intense." And my answer always is, I think we do, because I think it's important that the public understands that there are men and women out there who do that, and to lighten it up and to soften it up and make it look like it's all. When I was a kid and I watched the cowboy pictures, the cowboys went bang, ooh, oh, and they fell over, and then that was that. But I think people have to understand that it's unfortunate, but we've always had violence. It's part of human nature. It's part of in the animal kingdom and everything. The trick is to try to get past it, to control it, to try to learn from it, this, that, and the other. But to pretend it isn't there or to try to whitewash it, I think is also perhaps not necessarily in the best interest of understanding. Some people really have to, again, because of their job descriptions, have to deal with that every day. And this is a chance for the public to understand this is what it's like.
I think, yeah. I think also the 1990s, when you had Quentin Tarantino coming and Killing Bill and all of that, it desensitized a lot of it for the audience, and then it just kind of escalated. And I think right now it's kind of coming back to, why are you showing that? And I think that there's a responsibility in film now to give an emotional or a parenthetical reason behind what the violence is, because we're so affected by it in our daily lives with war and with the gun violence in the U.S. So it can be offensive to people to see something that's done irresponsibly. So it's hard to go back and watch certain things 25 years later, you know? Which I think is what makes Thinner part of it's cool, man. Because, you know, there was a certain tongue-in-cheek, there was a, you know what I mean? It's palatable, am I right? In a way that maybe things are not palatable that we watched that were made 5 years ago. We're like, right? So it's kind of like, you know what I'm saying? Can I get a something?
Is there someone else, Carolyn? Oh, here we go.
So this, I was born in 1981. I did not watch this movie, but I would not consider it a violent movie. I would consider it very, to the times of 1996. Actually, the themes that I was getting were very interesting to this day, which would be about our thought of who we are in terms of our bodies, our minds, and some of the, you know, everything that interpersonally Stephen King might have been putting on in terms of horror. That was cool. And then I think in terms of the way that the acting was portrayed was just beautiful. It didn't seem violent, and it seemed really cool, and the special effects for the 90s, right on. Oh gosh. It keep going with it, but yeah, I didn't see it as a violent movie at all. I did see it as something for 1996 was ahead of its time in terms of health, mind, body awareness, as well as, you know, add a little Stephen King horror and put it in to the story. And I appreciate. So it's so wonderful to see everyone here. And I have to say, I have teenagers, and Criminal Minds is their favorite show.
I applaud your teenagers' good taste.
You're smart and pretty. I'm going to buy you some pie after this.
Yeah, Carolyn did. Yeah, I mean, a quick comment. We're going to wrap it up here soon, I think. But we all worked with Stephen. I mean, did anyone? You have a Stephen King came. The town flipped out. They had to, lock out the streets and everything. Remember, when he was the pharmacist in there. Did you have was it fun having Stephen come to set with you? Or did he want to make his cameo? How did that happen, Tom?
Oh, Stephen's always fun. Stephen, well, he's making appearances in all of his movies, or he was at that point. I used him in Langoliers too. Stephen's a very nice, very decent man, and he's a high school English teacher from 1968. I mean, it's very, very odd. He's brilliant, and he has preternatural abilities with a story. But he's that kid in the 4th grade that nobody wanted to talk to. I mean, you just know it. He's the weird kid that grew up. So I think he's absolutely terrific. Look, without Stephen King, we all wouldn't be here. Stephen King took horror and he took it out to the masses. He took it out to the middle class. He made it okay for all of us to read. And he did that by using brand names in his stories. you know, mac and cheese, and I don't know, whatever you want. But they're in all those books. Everything from
AC/DC. The rock band.
Rock band, okay, yeah. Well, I mean, all of that. He's so rooted in popular culture, but he made horror acceptable for the wide reading audience. And we are now well into a huge explosion of the horror genre, which is a standalone genre in Hollywood at this point. I mean, I can go on. I think horror is great. It can be done inexpensively, okay, and it can also make a bloody fortune, even if it's done inexpensively. And because they're so quick to do it, it responds to social changes that are going on in the country, and it reflects a reality that we're all into. You know, better than let's say, the Marvel movies.
I was enamored of Stephen King. Stephen was in my trailer once with Tom, and Stephen was playing with like this book of matches, and Tom says, "Stephen, put those matches down. You're making me nervous." He goes, "It's like you're coming up with a goddamn plot of your next film." And I was just, you know, I said to Stephen, I said, "Is there anything you can tell me to help me with this character, Mr. King?" And he's like, "You're going to eat." And I was like, "What?" And he goes, "You're going to eat." And I was like, "I've been doing that since I was a child." You know? So he goes, "No," he goes, "in movies we see people eat and we know that they spit it out in a bucket, but you're going to eat. You're going to eat." And I was like, okay. So you see scenes where I'm like gobbling like 6 shrimp, and we shot that 11 times. And then, you know, 28 French fries, but we shot that scene 14 times. Yes. And so this is the lady actually who brought me all of the food right here.
It is, I mean, it is because
I thank
of this,
her I'm still alive 30 years later.
It is because of this movie that my poor husband and son have never had a home-cooked meal. Yeah, I mean, we're talking, we fed, the props department fed him every single,
One day with the pie and the turkey, and then I'm gobbling the whipped cream.
Oh.
And you know, in the end, it was the whipped cream that got me.
Yeah.
I remember it started to expand, and then the first AD went, "That's lunch," and I was like, you know, so it was.
And the farting. No, just kidding.
Not me. No, it was that was a whole element that I said, do I got to keep? And he said to me, every scene you're going to be eating. Every scene you're going to be. If you're driving, you're going to be eating Doritos or whatever it was. So that was like bizarre. I mean, it was bizarre.
It really was. Is anyone? We're going in for it. Let's do one more, 2 more.
Thanks, guys, for coming out tonight. You guys were great. Mine was just kind of quick question. Could you just maybe illuminate one of your favorite points of working on this film, something that just stood out that we wouldn't find in the bonus features on the DVD?
You people have a great, anyone?
I'll give you one little anecdote. It's got nothing to do with the film itself, but just in terms of the life that we live as actors and the places we have to go and do things. We were in this beautiful little town, Camden, Maine, you know, which is, you know, it was fall, so the leaves were changing, this and that.
Gorgeous.
I had my 2 daughters, who are both in their 30s now, were like 5 and 7 at the time. And I remember, since we were going to be there for quite a while, we asked if we could just put them in a school so they have something to do during the days, the weekdays. And there's one little public school in the town said, sure, they can come and be in our class. And so they did that. And I remember I would go pick them up when I would be on a day that, you know, I wasn't filming by the time the school would end. And I'd drive up to the school, and I'd pick him up, and here was the principal of the school standing on the steps. And as each child came out of the school, by first names, he would say goodbye to them. So he'd look at my daughter and say, goodbye, Mia, goodbye, Gia, goodbye, and to every kid. And I thought to myself, wow, this is just just thrilled to be able to have that experience and to be able to say, sometimes we get lucky with these locations that brings us to a place that we may not have discovered, and understand that other people in other places live other kinds of lives, and it was just made that memory of the movie all that.
I remember
sweeter.
throwing up on the plane from Portland to Camden, the little puddle jumper, and that's what I know. It was beautiful.
That's
but
the
it was,
flip side of my story.
a little levity. It was kind of in the middle of nowhere, but it was super beautiful.
I was supposed to lose 20 pounds shooting this movie. I got there early to do stuff, and everybody was like, Mr. Burke, I'd be honored if you had this lobster. And I gained about 8 pounds in my first 5 days I was there. I was like, I had to stop.
Well, that was the one other thing, too, that I thought was great. Craft service is what you get, like, during the breaks. In other words, they supply snacks for you. And normally you get, like, whatever it is, gum, potato chips, this, that, and the other. There, craft service, there'd be crates of lobsters. And literally, if you wanted a snack, you go grab yourself a 2-pound lobster.
Which I couldn't
not bad.
eat thanks to Stephen King and the lobstrosities, right? From, like, you know what I'm talking about? Stand up and talk about it. That's right. Like, anything that has to do with Maine and Stephen King, it's ruined now. Ruined.
Tom, do you have any memories of Camden? Do you have any memories of Camden that you enjoy? It was such a beautiful
Camden
location.
is beautiful. It's the Gold Coast of Maine, and it's probably the most beautiful city on the coast in Maine. They shot Peyton Place there, for those of you who have a faint memory. It's just wonderful. I mean, you can't go in the water, you freeze to death. But, it's wonderful for sailing. It's just beautiful.
My memories were probably being in the makeup room with Robert, and as well as when we came back to do the reshoot, we were in the worst snowstorm that we got trapped there, and was like the most amazing time because we were like a little family going a little bed and breakfast because we did the new ending. So, and I was brought back to do the new ending for the film. And also we were watching the OJ trial, if you remember that.
Yes, yes.
That was really poignant to me that, remembering the OJ trial, because while we were putting the makeup on, we were obsessed with watching that while we were putting the makeup on.
I forgot all about it.
I obviously didn't.
I just think this was wonderful, and yeah.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Everyone, Stephen King's Thinner. Here we are.